This is Grinner on all channels.
Welcome to the waste.
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 Welcome to the waste. Welcome to the waste.
Welcome to the waste.
Welcome to the waste.
Welcome to the wastes. Hello there, Wasteland. This is Grinner, broadcasting on all channels. Welcome to the wastes. It's been a bit of time with me transmitting out to you all, and after some recent events and encounters, I've started looking back on some of the things that have happened since the fall, but more importantly, since I've become this voice in the static. As I sit here now in the bunker, glancing over some tokens and other small things I've got scattered around, I'm starting to realize how surreal this all is. Which says a lot, considering what we all deal with and encounter on a daily basis, wandering in the wastes. Creeps, the corporations, ferals, and all those other ways we've managed to divide ourselves into factions and groups with different motivations. It can be so easy to lose yourself in all of that. Believe me, I know exactly how easy and how short a fall that can be, and I don't wish that for anyone. But our world, this wasted land we call home, is so much more than the doom and gloom that came when those in power lost their way. So many of us survived the fall and continue to survive despite everything terrible out there. We've always been just doing that. Even before we had the dangers outside in the wastes. The resilience of just regular people to survive regardless of every threat thrown at us. This is exactly the kind of feeling I'm going to come back to a few times during this broadcast. Of course, I have some updates from out in the dust, since that's what I do best. I remember when I was little, before the fall. I'd awaken to the sounds of CB radio coming through my speakers. I remember how much it scared me, the thought of machine spirits. And I laugh. I laugh because I pray for them now. 121.7, dead. 107.5, dead. 110.1, still but a hum. What I wouldn't give to wake up scared of ghosts in the static. The silence is deafening. I've heard word that the feral swarm that was threatening to overwhelm a small community in the south has been dispatched. Turns out the armory they had was more than substantial enough to handle such a horde. And I'm talking a massive one here, Wasteland. Reports from couriers and radio transmissions in that area were clocking it as the biggest one seen in the region. So that's some wonderful news amidst the constant reports of smaller packs becoming more abundant in the less inhabited areas of the wastes. Truly some indomitable human spirit right there. It's been a while since the fall, but I know there's still a lot of us out there that remember the fear of not knowing who was infected and who wasn't at first. I still remember how that fear escalated when the ferals started becoming a major threat out in the streets. But I also remember how a lot of us came together. We fortified our homes, we built shelters, and kept each other safe. Yeah, the corporations did a lot of that too, and while they have become something definitely evil in the past years since, it meant we could survive what came after. All of it meant that we had a fighting chance in whatever world we were going to have. That's why I keep fighting against the corporations. Do I love the idea of safe, secure places for us all to live and survive and rebuild? Of course I fucking do. But do I want that to be at the cost of our collective humanity? Well, you all know the answer to that. I don't know. Maybe one day we can take places like the Gap back from the corporations. Wastelander can dream, right? Anyways, moving on. of diesel hangs in the wind, who keeps pushing me over stone and barren land, wrench in hand. I hear the roar of the engines, disturbing the nocturnal silence. I know this is where I belong, because I'm with mine. Flames strike 1,000 sparks, glow over your bunker, your drums, your voices, let my soul sing. Plastic skulls, chicken bones, fire isn't just for cooking. Heavy chains, latex scars, and smokes in all colors. You are like fire in the night, like a creative force. Can't help but love you. Outside war paint, inside peace. There have been reports of the figure known as the Wanderer being spotted helping out some local camps and outposts near the old Vada region. I know that part of the desert has been fairly tumultuous over the last few years, despite the peaceful gatherings that take place pretty regularly. Namely, conflicts on the borderlands keep pushing conflicting factions to the brink of civil war. From the sound of things, the Wanderer seems to have put together their own ragtag bunch of survivors and wandering souls, making their own sort of force that I guess is hoping to try and find some sort of resolution. Not sure if that's possible from the reports I've heard, but hell, they've done the impossible before. You know, I once heard a voice on the radio make the comment that war never changes. And while that's true, I do think we need to remember that sometimes they do. Before the fall, it always came down to which side had the bigger weapons and the forces to back up the use of said weapons. But then something did change. The fall almost could have been any other war before it. Tensions had grown across countries, and every day brought more reports of us coming closer to the brink. Then the Ferals show up, and suddenly those government conflicts don't matter. Not when your neighbors are becoming walking nightmares. The fall wasn't a war at all, in that sense. It was just an ending. With as much of the population locked away in domed cities, bunkers, vaults, wherever they could find shelter, we said goodbye to the old world. We waited and stepped out into the new one, into the wastes, and looked forward to a world where we didn't have war anymore. Or at least the conflicts that build to them. Some habits die harder than others, I guess. Don't worry, Wasteland. Listen, I know the fact that a lot of the bad stuff from the old world has carried over into the one that we're all trying to build now is just, it's the fucking worst. I still wish it hadn't. That doesn't mean I'm not still holding out some hope, though. Hearing stories over the radio waves about people fighting back, building new communities, and finding ways to work together, keeps hope alive for me. Whether before or after the fall, there's always been groups seeking to control, manipulating the masses, making a quick buck off the back of people. Of course, before the fall, we had corporations selling you on a better tomorrow, as long as you work hard for scraps. After the fall, those corporations are still there, but instead of a better tomorrow, since that idea went out the window with the bombs, they sell you on the promise of safety while working you for less than scraps. They manipulate the messages on the static until the world outside the walls is a hellscape. Unlivable, full of dangers you should hide from, and behind those walls, behind the fences, behind the manipulations, the hellscape has turned inward. Everything and everyone outside, deviations in their design, threats to their lives, rebels. People who survived the fall of everything, wandering souls looking for scraps of hope, scraps of freedom, things the corporations have monetized, kept under lock and key, crushed down and prepackaged, sold out in meager portions in exchange for the same scraps they don't want to give. The devil stands in a suit with a smile, selling you your life at the cost of your humanity. All you have to do is take a step back, see the blood on those gloves, and do what I did, Wastelander. Rebel. I've recently heard reports of a new outpost out on the eastern coast. It seems like they've found the biggest pocket of truly fresh water that anyone's seen in a few years. No rads, and surprisingly not salt water despite being so close to the ocean. Apparently there's even some aquatic life still hanging on in there too, which has seen a boom for this outpost simply called the Fish Shack. For exactly that reason, they have fish. It's really not often we find a resource that we all thought was on the verge of being tapped out, and yet here we are, seeing some pop right back up when you wouldn't expect them. I don't really know how long the world will take to heal from the effects of the fall, but hearing news like this does make it feel like, I don't know, we might see it in our lifetimes. My many thanks to Mayfield, the Wastelander that put that call out on a surprisingly long-range frequency. I might just have to make it out there when things quiet down here. Haven't had any real fresh fish since, before being in a bunker for a decade. Wandering the old subway tunnels, it's not uncommon to find the remains of travelers, lost souls who made contact with the third rail. Despite there being no more trains to run, it seems like the corporations never cut the power to these lines. A deadly trick, a cunning trap for wastelanders desperate for shelter, unaware of the danger they find. That's why I always keep some rubber-soled shoes with me, because I find solace in wandering these tunnels, remembering what it was like to catch the train, to go to work, to go on an adventure, to go home. I wander the tunnels, flashlight on, goggles and mask hiding my face, and rubber-soled shoes to help avoid a shock, digging through the rubble of these old stations, looking for home. Well, my wasteland wanderers, the sun is starting to set, and I still have plenty to do around the bunker to get ready for the impending storm. From what my readouts here have been telling me, the rads are going to be lower than normal at our level, but the intensity of them up above is supposed to be something wild to see. That means I gotta be switching you back over to static, at least for a little while. But I'll leave you all with this. In this vast wasteland, with so much danger and despair that threaten us on the daily, it can be hard to hold on to anything for long. Especially if you're on the move, as much as I know a lot of us are. Laying down roots and appreciating the physical things we do have can be difficult. But if there's one thing I've found in my years of wandering and listening to stories over the static, is that hope is something that sticks no matter what. Are there things that happen out there that can fill even the most optimistic person with dread? Absolutely. And it can be downright terrifying when you come across one of those. The thing to remember when you find yourself face to face with an elite creep, or looking out at a swarm of ferals blocking your path home, is that they can never take away your sense of hope. That feeling you get when you find something you thought was long forgotten in the fall, or you make a new friend that has your back through even the hardest of times, or even if they're just a friend for one night around a campfire. Or when you'd find shelter from the storm just in time to listen to the rain wash over the scorched dust. There are are so many things to keep that hope alive. For me, it's hearing all these stories. Tales from so many places that I don't know if I ever would have gone to or heard from had I not started transmitting, looking for hope. And now here I am, listening to your voices, putting mine out there in the static, spreading some of our own. Alright, Wasteland. That's enough rambling from me for one night. Gonna go make sure everything's secure and try and figure out a way to see the light show. This has been Grinner, broadcasting on all channels. See you in the wastes. Welcome to The Waste is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media and make sure to subscribe so you can hear new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to support the podcast by getting some cool merch, check out my Etsy store. For more information and all the links, check out linktree.com/welcome to the wastes. Thanks for listening.